and we're out of here. The clock is ticking and we're in the clear. We got 3 minutes and we're out of here.
Hey everybody, Brian Zane here. Before Who Wore It Better begins this week, I want to talk briefly about the recent controversy and discussions surrounding YouTube and wrestling channels and monetization. There's a lot of talk going out there right now about how wrestling channels on YouTube are just being demonetized left and right, and how they're being put in restricted mode, and how, they're being deemed not advertiser friendly. And it's a lot of different things happening with channels right now. I think there's a lot of conflation and misinformation and confusion about what is going on. So I will just tell you from my personal experience what is going on with my channel. First off, apart from the videos I've put out over the years that have been demonetized or outright blocked due to copyright violations, my channel has not been demonetized, nor has my channel been classified as not advertiser friendly. And this issue of demonetization and not advertiser friendly is not just restricted to wrestling channels. From what I understand, a lot of different genres are being affected by this. Like I said, I'm not outright demonetized. I'm still making money on YouTube. However, it is far less than the average. Right around WrestleMania weekend, there was this big dip in my average daily revenue. I won't go into the specifics of what went from A to B, but there is a significant drop in money, and I do believe at least part of that can be attributed to the massive boycott that a lot of Google's biggest advertisers have staged, because basically Google and YouTube have not been properly vetting where their ads are going, so a lot of big advertisers are scared about, oh, they don't want their commercials associated with videos they don't agree with regarding hate speech and terrorism, etc. So they have temporarily suspended their accounts with YouTube, which means a lot less ad money coming in, which means all the channels are suffering. The bulk of you have been enjoying YouTube, not just my channel, but all the different videos offered on YouTube for free. At its base, YouTube is a free service. But I know there's a lot of you out there who are definitely concerned for us YouTube content creators that suddenly now there's different issues happening with different people's channels. I think it's all going to blow over time. I think, the issue with the restrictions, and I think the issue with not advertiser friendly, and the lack of money coming in, I think those will all be short-term things that will be addressed over time. However, I am appreciative of your concern, people who've contacted me directly on Twitter and on Facebook and on Reddit saying, what's happening here? Please don't stop your channel. I appreciate all that input. Wrestling with Regret is not going away anytime soon. I do believe these problems will blow over. However, for those of you who do care that deeply, if you do want to support your creators out there and you fear that, because of a lack of income, they might pull the plug on their channels, there are a couple of different ways you can support us and specifically me. First of all, if you want to support just creators in general, I recommend you can subscribe to YouTube Red for the monthly fee. Creators on average get more money per subscriber watching their videos than people who are not subscribed. Second of all, if you specifically want to support me and this channel, you can go to my brand new Patreon account at patreon.com/wrestlingwithwregret. The timing is interesting, I know, given the monetary climate of YouTube right now, but I have been mulling over a Patreon account for several months. It's just been kind of sitting on the back burner. I've been waiting for the right time to do it. So the issue with money and the ad revenue coming into YouTube is part of the reason I'm launching the Patreon account this week, but also because I just felt I've ironed out the kinks and I figure I have everything the way I want it to be right now, and the time is right. For as little as $1 a month, you can support this channel and all the creative endeavors therein. You get some Patreon exclusive perks, and you can also help dictate the direction of certain segments happening in this channel from here on out. So again, for more information, go to patreon.com/wrestlingwithwregret. Links here at the bottom of the screen and in the description below. Again, it's totally voluntary. You can donate as little or as much as you want on a monthly basis, but no matter how much you contribute, if you choose to do so, you have my undying appreciation. So I thank you for your time, and without any further ado, let's go right into Who Wore It Better. Diving right into Monday Night Raw, Braun Strowman comes out, gets one of the biggest pops of the night by saying that Roman Reigns will not be in attendance. Kurt Angle comes out to interrupt him. One thing I like about the situation now on Raw with Angle's GM and Stephanie out of the picture for the time being, it puts the authority situation and exposure for the authority figures on Raw very similar to what it is on SmackDown, by which I mean it's very minimal. Angle makes a match at Payback pinning Roman versus Braun. One thing that I thought was interesting and kind of irked me a little bit was when Angle was talking about Roman Reigns' so-called injuries. That's what he referred to them as, so-called injuries. It makes it sound like Roman Reigns is lying about his injuries, which is not a good thing for the person you're portraying as a face. First match of the night is Chris Jericho versus Samoa Joe with Seth Rollins on commentary. A few weeks ago, these guys had a match. It ended in a count-out victory for Samoa Joe. I thought it kind of fell flat. For a match the first time these two are together, you want something more than that. This match gave us a little bit more. It still, to me, could have been better, maybe with more heat behind it. It could be an amazing match. For right now, at least it had a match with a finish, and I liked the finish too, because Jericho was in the Coquina clutch. He tried to counter out of it a la Bret Hart on Piper at WrestleMania 8. Joe kicks out of it, keeps on the Coquina clutch, and Jericho taps out. It was a really good match between the two, a good exhibition style match. Again, with more heat behind it, with an actual angle, I could see that being one of the better matches of any given night. Joe gets on the mic after the match and talks to Seth Rollins and says that it's no longer business between you and me, it's personal at Payback, because I'm going to fight. Basically, he says, I'm going to fight for the honor of Triple H and Stephanie after what you did to them at WrestleMania. It's always good to keep those guys really fresh in our minds. Anderson and Gallows taking on Enzo and Cass for the millionth time. The opponents for Anderson and Gallows were supposed to be Golden Truth, but they got jumped backstage and destroyed by Braun Strowman and his path of terror that happened throughout the night. So yeah, didn't really care about this match because we've seen it so many times before. I did like the finish though, when Anderson tosses Enzo into the corner in a very beautifully awkward kind of way. The way Enzo bumped off it was really cool, but just like, I've never seen that move done at all, much less to finish a match. So kind of a cool way to end it there. But I will say, Dash Wilder getting injured over the weekend really couldn't happen at a worse time, because the tag team scene on Raw really needs more diversity. I will give Big Cass an A for effort though in incorporating a Buckeyes reference in his opening promo, since they were in Columbus on Monday, but for some reason it didn't get over. Time for Miz TV with guest Dean Ambrose. I feel like we've seen this segment before. Didn't this just happen like a month or two ago on SmackDown? I feel the whole point of the whole Superstar shakeup is to shake things up and have different rivalries and matches on both shows. But, Miz and Ambrose, who just spent all this time fighting each other on SmackDown before the Miz went into his feud with Cena and Ambrose with Corbin, now you're just getting the same thing happening on Raw, and that doesn't do much for me. The promo here was basically kind of a class war, pitting Ambrose in his laid-back grungy style versus The Miz in his glammed-up Hollywood style, and it ends with Ambrose and Miz having a scuffle, and Miz and Maurice powder out. I did like the part when Maurice hits Ambrose in the back with a microphone, and Ambrose is like, sell, and his face like, what was that? That was actually a really funny reaction by Ambrose. But anyway, Ambrose stands tall at the end of the segment. As I mentioned earlier, Braun was on a path of destruction throughout the night. He was beating up Golden Truth. He was dragging Kalisto around, tossing him in the garbage can. Is this symbolic, King? And then Big Show comes out and jumps him, and that establishes the main event for later in the night, Big Show versus Braun. Cruiserweight time, the newly minted heel TJ Perkins takes on Jack Gallagher in a shock of shocks. Was not just a 3-minute ditty. It was actually given proper amount of time for a Cruiserweight match on Raw. You had Austin Aries and Neville sitting at ringside while the match is going on. The match ends, Aries and Neville have a scuffle on the outside with the referee distracted. TJ Perkins cheap shots Gallagher with the rope, hits the detonation kick to win the match. And so I like this idea of TJ as Neville's kind of underling. I think if you look at the bulk of Perkins' stuff throughout this whole segment, from the entrance, which had like zero change, and then his style of wrestling, which had very little change, and he cheated to win. But other than that, I didn't see much of a difference between face and heel Perkins, but hopefully we can see more of a gradual descent as he is further corrupted by Neville. At least with Neville, you could see a clear night and day change between when he was a face and when he was a heel. His style totally changed, so hopefully we'll see more of that from Perkins as well. But I mean, I think his entrance is just way too peppy for him to be a heel with that entrance. Fatal 4-way match for the #1 contendership for the Raw Women's Championship. Sasha Banks, Nia Jax, Mickie James, and Alexa Bliss, those two making their official in-ring Raw debuts on this night. This is a really entertaining match. I think the story here overall was just everyone bouncing off Nia Jax. Nia Jax destroying fools left and right. This is a really fun match to watch, in my opinion. I think everyone got a chance to shine and get their stuff in. I feel like Nia, in my opinion, really redeemed herself from the debacle of last week, where she dropped Charlotte on her head and didn't quite catch her in the moonsault to the outside. So I think this was a good step forward for Nia Jax, in my opinion. The match ends when Nia hits a Samoan drop on Sasha Banks, but before she can do anything, Alexa Bliss comes in, kicks Nia out of the ring, covers Sasha to win the match and become the new #1 contender. This seems to be the pattern that both shows get into when they do multi-person matches. The big person gets all the stuff in, looks super strong, super devastating, but ultimately they cannot win. I wish at some point they break that trend and just have the big person who's dominating the whole time, whether it be Nia or Strowman or Corbin or whoever, just dominate the match and then win it. I feel like they've been falling into this pattern, this trap of telling that story over and over again. And it works here, but we're getting to the point of just it's being done to death. Finn Balor versus Kurt Hawkins. Coup de Gracie. Balor wins. Bray Wyatt said some stuff. There was some scary imagery. Cool. Jeff Hardy taking on Cesaro in singles action. I feel with the Hardys coming back, there's a lot of opportunities for them to say, this is the first time in X number of years the Hardys have done something. You know, this is the first time in 8 years Matt Hardy ate a sandwich on camera on WWE TV. The Hardys did a promo earlier in the night. You had Matt Hardy talking, kind of incorporating, slipping in a little bit of the broken accent there, a little hinting. There's still a lot of speculation as to whether or not the broken gimmick will make it on WWE TV. I hope it does. At the same time, I'm nervous because I don't think WWE will know what to do with it. Anyway, it was a good match. The commentary did a great job in this match, really hyping up Jeff Hardy as a singles guy. I don't know if the plan long-term is to break these two up again, but they did a really good job just kind of reminding people, hey, this guy's a former world champion, former WWE champion, former Intercontinental champion. Like, this guy's done a lot for being like a tag team wrestler. He's still an amazing singles guy. So hopefully they can build on that in the future. But it made Jeff look really strong here, and Jeff wins clean with the twist of fate and the swanton. Show of sportsmanship by both teams. They shake hands at the end. So yeah, and we'll see how this builds into their upcoming match at Payback. Main event time is Big Show takes on Braun Strowman, and gosh, I feel like we've seen this match before. It was 2 months ago, almost to the day, when they last had their main event match at Raw, which I thought was amazing. I think this match was even better than that, but at the same time, it's like that match was still so fresh in my mind. To do it again so soon feels like you're just kind of like burning out too fast with this. I think you could definitely stretch that rivalry something further out as long as Big Show's still active. This match is still entertaining. A lot more showing of Braun Strowman's really impressive agility. I think it's more impressive when he does it with another big guy like the Big Show. You know, if he does it with a smaller guy or an average sized guy in WWE, it's not as impressive. He doesn't have to do it. He just has to show off his size and just toss people around. That's all you got to do. But when you're against the Big Show, you can afford to do your flips and your drop kicks and stuff. I thought that was really cool for Braun to do that. Anyway, here's the spot that everyone's talking about this week. Strowman and Big Show do the superplex spot. Actually, they teased that spot 3 separate times. The third time, they finally hit it. The ring collapses. The referee eats shit on the way out of the ring. That was hilarious. I watched it like 20 times, laughed my ass off every time. And then Strowman gets up after all the carnage happens, and he's just flexing like, yeah! So he looks just more dominant and unbelievably strong, which is going to make it even more ridiculous when Roman inevitably beats him at Payback. I've seen people complain that they've now kind of overdone, they've kind of killed the magic of the ring collapsing after a giant superplex spot. And, you know, I can kind of agree with that. Like, on one hand, it's happened, like, I think the average someone wrote was like every 4.5 years this spot has happened. Like, first it was Big Show and Lesnar, then it was Big Show and Henry, and then this past week it was Big Show and Braun. You know, I think the thing is, it's fun to watch every time. And yeah, like, fans of a certain length of fandom can remember these things happening before. And so yeah, when you kind of like put them together, it does seem like you've done it a lot because it's such a holy shit move, and it's so rare to see it happen that when it does happen, it's like you remember it. So now we remember it happening 3 times, and then you can recount the 4th time when Undertaker made the ring collapse due to lightning. When Angle was just standing in the ring, you make it 4 times. So yeah, they definitely pull that trick out whenever they can, but at the same time, it's like if you did it like every year, I can see that being a problem. But like, it's been spread out long enough, I think they can get away with spacing it that far. Time for SmackDown. Charlotte kicks things off by delivering a very robotic promo, one of the more boring promos I've heard her cut in quite some time, and that's saying something, saying she demands a women's championship match. And honestly, I momentarily forgot who the women's champion on SmackDown was before Naomi interrupted her. They have a scuffle, and Shane comes out and makes a non-title match for the two of them later in the night. If Charlotte wins the match, she becomes the #1 contender. I'm just going to jump ahead of that match right now. And this was a good match, honestly. I liked it. I think it really showcased both women's abilities, Naomi's athleticism, Charlotte's power. I loved Naomi's springboard bulldog into a sunset flip. I've never seen that before. That was super cool. Charlotte wins the match after blocking the rear view with a giant kick to the back. That looked pretty snug, and she hits natural selection, wins the match. And you know, it's sad that, you know, I can't remember the last time a champion has won a non-title match. And it's just, we see this match 1 week on SmackDown. We're going to get it again next week for the title. So it's just kind of weird. The one thing I will say, I was very intrigued by what they're doing in the backstage stuff between Charlotte and then like the group of conspiratory women, Natalya and Carmella and Tamina. Like, what's going to go on with those 3, and where's James Ellsworth going to fit in all this? Jumping back a bit to the 6-pack challenge to determine the #1 contender for the WWE title at Backlash, you've got Dolph Ziggler, Eric Rowan, Luke Harper, Jinder Mahal, Mojo Rawley, and Sami Zayn. Couple of things. First of all, SmackDown loves them some 6-pack challenges. Second of all, God, remember just a few weeks ago when it felt like Luke Harper was on the cusp cusp of the main event scene. I miss those days. Anyway, very entertaining match here, very similar to the Fatal 4-Way Women's match on Raw. I think everyone got a chance to shine and look really good here. The match ends when Sammy's going for the haluva kick to Mahal, but the Bollywood boys come out and they hold Sammy's legs down, and then Mahal hits, I believe it was a Cobra Clutch Slam. It was some kind of thing like that. He hits him with his finisher, and Jinder Mahal wins. Like, who in a million years would have predicted Mahal winning a match at this point, let alone one for the number one contendership? I love what it's like. It's so weird how they do that, where like they'll push a guy, but not before having him lose over and over again. That's what Mahal's been doing on Raw, and now on SmackDown he was losing again. And this goes back to, like, this is not a new occurrence. This goes back to Austin days. You know, he was losing matches before he was fighting Bret Hart and then fighting Michaels for the title. You know, it's like, it's just so weird how they do that. They build them, they break them down, and then they build people up, and then they expect us to believe that they can win. Like, it happened to Dolph Ziggler last year and a couple of times, and with Naomi losing on Tuesday night. How can people get behind champions if they keep losing their non-title matches? How can people get behind contenders if they lose everything but their contendership match? Be that as it may, I think that what they did here was a big shock with Mahal winning, him cutting the promo at the end to massive boos. Like, I cannot remember the last time anyone has gotten that much heat on SmackDown, let alone someone like Jinder Mahal. It was very reminiscent to me of like Tiger Ali Singh's promo, his style, in like 98, 99, only this time Jinder Mahal actually has like a look and has talent. So Mahal says he's going to be the next champion. Randy Orton comes out and cuts a promo on Bray Wyatt while Mahal's standing right in front of him. I thought that was very awkward and kind of took the piss out of Jinder there. He's being hindered. Jinder's being hindered already, you know. And then Bray Wyatt goes on the screen, says some more spooky stuff, and that's where the segment ends. What happened to Orton? What happened to Jinder? The Colognes are on SmackDown now, no longer the shining stars. I think they've killed the timeshare gimmick, which is a great move. I think that's several months too late, in my opinion, but they beat American Alpha in relatively short fashion after some double team chicanery. A couple of well-produced hype packages for Shinsuke Nakamura and Ty Dillinger on the show. Great to keep these guys, who aren't wrestling matches, to keep them in everyone's consciousness and frame of reference when they're not on TV. I think Shinsuke is one of those people you can't have him on SmackDown every week because you kind of run the risk of like overexposing him and making him lose his mystique. I think they did the right thing with him at NXT, the way they presented him there. So keeping the same kind of thing on SmackDown, I think for right now, is a good choice. Kevin Owens in the inaugural Face of America Open Challenge. Jesus Christ, that new Kevin Owens Titantron. That's something else. And so he destroys the local man, Gary Gandy, I think his name was, just kills him right away, joins commentary for the main event of AJ Styles and Baron Corbin. Even though it's at the expense of Payback, and it's kind of like telegraphing the finishes of some high-profile matches on the show, at the same time, I do like what SmackDown is doing, having these overlapping storylines. You've got Kevin Owens beefing with Chris Jericho and AJ Styles simultaneously. AJ is the #1 contender for the US title. Meanwhile, you also got Randy Orton, he's feuding with Bray Wyatt, who's on Raw, but you got Jinder Mahal lurking in the shadows, and what's the connection between him and the Bollywood boys? Very interesting stuff. Even though, again, it's kind of giving away what's happening at Payback, I do like the overlap here. The match ends and they're fighting on the outside. Styles going for the Styles Clash. Corbin backdrops him into Kevin Owens. Styles hits Corbin with a phenomenal forearm to the outside of the barricade. Styles runs in and wins at the last second via countout. This is good because, Corbin is more or less protected. He lost, but he lost via countout, like he wasn't pinned, and so it's a good way to protect him. Kind of a meh finish, but at the end, Styles wins, gets face cred, and gets some heat on Owens, and I think it's good for pretty much everyone. Time now for me to decide who won for the week, Raw or SmackDown. And folks, I got to give it to SmackDown this week, because what did we learn in this first week after the Superstar shakeup? We learned that Raw, for example, likes to do the same stuff they did before the shakeup, because what do we have on Raw? We had tons of rematches and rehashes of things we've already seen before. Anderson and Gallows and Enzo and Cass. We saw Jericho and Samoa Joe. We saw TJ Perkins and Jack Gallagher, which was a rematch from 205 Live, but it was still from last week, so it's a rematch from less than a week ago. We saw Braun Strowman versus Big Show. Great match notwithstanding. Excellent finish notwithstanding. Still, we've already seen this match before. And I did like, I said, Braun Strowman's whole reign of destruction throughout the night was great. I like the women's fatal 4-way. It was nice to have some new blood injected into the women's division there. I like Jeff Hardy and Cesaro just because it felt new and fresh, because we haven't seen Jeff Hardy in forever on singles action on TV. But yeah, just so much of the just repetitiveness on Raw. Like it feels like it took different elements from different Raws and like a little bit from one SmackDown over the last 3 months and just dumped it all here into this one episode of Raw. And it didn't really sit well with me. SmackDown, I think just the biggest shock was Jinder Mahal winning and becoming the new #1 contender. That was a big shock. I'm very intrigued about what they're going to do with him and the Bollywood boys. Charlotte versus Naomi was a good match. I hate the fact that Naomi lost a non-title match, as champions are wont to do these days, but the match match itself I thought was good. I loved the hype packages. The one thing I didn't like on SmackDown that just really stuck in my craw was how Orton just totally hindered Jinder in that promo after Jinder just won. But other than that, I think it was, yeah, SmackDown was, there wasn't as much stuff going on with SmackDown. I'll admit that. But at least son of a bitch, at least they're trying something different. They're trying something new. That's all I can say about that. Let me know what you thought about Raw and SmackDown this week in the comments section below. And don't forget to vote which show you thought was better in the gimmick on the upper right hand corner of your screen. Be sure to thumbs up this video if you like it. Subscribe to Wrestling with Regret. Visit the Patreon. And don't forget to buy the t-shirts at prowrestlingtees.com. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.